Now, I know that you're the SVP of Security, technically is your title. I know that's a relatively new role in Cisco.
That's right.
So just give me a little bit of color as to what that's all about and what your responsibilities are.
So I got to Cisco about a year ago, a little bit over a year. So last year's RSA conference was brand new for me in my role at Cisco, although I've been here many times because I used to work at RSA and been around security for quite a few years now. But my responsibility is primarily focused on security products for the company, so all the firewall, web, email, IPS, VPN, even cloud security and identity services businesses that we have across Cisco fall into that product portfolio, as well as responsibility for our global government solutions team, which is really focused on, it's a group that kind of specializes in how we interface and think about our products as they relate to governments and the specific requirements that governments have for the products, whether those be certifications or adaptation that needs to be done for the government.
Now, across those individual groups, certainly there's the core routing, switching, there's security post pieces, there's specific security. Cloud, I know, Lou Tucker has his own area for cloud.
Right.
So how do you, from an organizational point of view, is it a lot of dotted lines of responsibility, and how does that work?
Well, think about it. Think of security in two different ways. There's kind of security as an industry vertical, where we have products that are security products, which is kind of like what a lot of this conference is about, particularly the vendors out here on the show floor. But then there's security as a horizontal, which is what you're pointing out, which are security capabilities, the security levels of our products themselves. So, for example, how we use encryption, how we do embedded security, how we securely develop products. Those are all elements of, that different components of my team will work with other teams across Cisco to help deliver either best practice or embedded components. So, for example, we have a team that's in my organization that builds common crypto toolkits that then get propagated across Cisco platforms, so that those platforms can be kind of up to speed with the next generation encryption capabilities, can be FIPS 140-2 compliant for the government. So that's kind of, think about that as security as a baseline across all of our products. Then a level up from that is the architectures for security capabilities that do need to integrate with the rest of the company. So our team drives and champions the TrustSec architecture across the multiple platforms that have to build TrustSec into the architecture. We do a number of things. We program manage a lot of it. We work across the different teams. We help them implement it. We help them test and architect. We do a lot of the validated design work around that embedded architecture like TrustSec. They do have to do it. Those individual teams do have to do the development for TrustSec, but we help them kind of design, validate, implement in some cases. But ultimately, yes, the individual product teams are the ones who ultimately are responsible for building that capability into their platforms.
Got it.
Yeah, so through the security office, for Cisco, right? John Stewart is our CISO. There's a team within that group that does look at the potential vulnerabilities of products, how we test products. We understand. Now, each team is responsible for their own testing, their own validation. We do help them with secure development lifecycle best practices. So they do test and validate against that as they go through their overall development lifecycle practices. But I do have a team that does have the ability to kind of do some checks and balances on what the broader set of platform teams are building, and works with them on making sure that the right level of security is ensured before something ships.
And that's all coming up to you. So if I understand it correctly, you've got internal responsibility, as it were, on products that are shipping, and then responsibility on product direction as well.
Correct. From a security perspective.
Which makes sense. Good. That's a good baseline. So now I'm fully aware. Because I know it's a new responsibility. It's a new role. Cisco never had that before. So is it something where management, I know there's a new chief operations officer, where they said this is a discipline that we need, or is this a case where you came in and you functionally created your own function and your own responsibility?
I think there was, a well-kept secret across Cisco, I think, for years has been that there's been a tremendous amount of security being done in various places in the company. Whether it's being driven by specific platform teams architecture teams like the TrustSec team, the internal security teams like John Stewart's team and others that were all doing, sort of doing aspects of security, whether that was to ship a security product or whether that was to ensure the baseline levels of security across our product portfolio. The realization that I think John and other senior leaders came to maybe a little bit before I got there, I'm not exactly sure whether it was a year before or 6 months before I got there, was that they wanted to really have more of a focused leader for security across the company, whether that be about the level of security and the architecture in our product set across the different broader architectures like routing and switching and data center, et cetera, as well as delivering security products capabilities that the market is going to consume for their kind of targeted security needs.
And your chief executive is a very engaged individual. What sort of metrics have been pushed down beyond just financial metrics, or is it just financial metrics that are your KPIs, et cetera, and the dashboard indicators in which he measures your success and the success of your group?
So security is a good business, and everyone at Cisco recognizes that, and the expectation is that we're going to be competitive there. We're going to grow the businesses that we have for security, but we're also very, very serious about making security a part of our overall set of architectures. And a great example of that is unified access. So ICE, our identity services engine, as well as the TrustSec architecture, are a major part of our overall unified access architecture that the enterprise networking and wireless teams are driving. We're really unifying wired and wireless access for enterprises, public sector organizations as well. And our security capabilities, in particular the identity services engine and TrustSec, are a core part of that. So while while we have responsibility for the product element of that, the participation in the unified access overall architecture is critical, again, not just for the standalone revenue from ICE, but for the overall value proposition that Cisco brings to its customers around wired and wireless access. I mean, from a metrics perspective, we look at revenues, we look at number of users, number of organizations. So it's kind of that security as a vertical and security as a horizontal balance that we're striking. So I think that, again, the expectation is we have a good security business. We have a lot of industry-leading security capabilities and products in our portfolio. We do a lot of security services that roll up through our services organization, all of which we expect to continue to grow and to deliver value around. But then there's also this element of security as part of our other architectures. And a lot of the success for that, there will be some elements measured in revenue, but there will also be some elements around adoption, around the value proposition that customers give us, and then the direct feedback. As you know, Cisco's very engaged with our customers. We have a lot of dialogue through a lot of different vehicles with our customers, with our channel partners. And so that feedback will be part of the validation that we get around, okay, how well are we doing at delivering security as part of our architecture?
When you look at your job and the width and breadth of the Cisco portfolio and the width and breadth of the threat landscape, what's the biggest challenge? Is it just reporting up to your upper management? Is it dealing with difficult clients, or is it some kind of operational or technical issue?
I think the biggest thing for us is really delivering on the value that the network can bring to the overall security architecture. And that's a big challenge, because when you're Cisco and you run so much of the IT infrastructure from the data center to the network and now ultimately out to the wireless access that most of our new devices are leveraging as their core access point. Your customers look to you to provide security across that entire expanse of infrastructure, and so our focus is to simplify yet be broad at the same time. And that's I would say that's an opportunity, but it takes a lot of work to be able to do that as well. And I think that's something that we're committed to. And I think what you're seeing from John and from other executives as they're talking about security publicly and what they've done with us internally is to really put that focus in the right place. And to take the long-term view. If you listen to any comments that John's made publicly about security over the course of the last year, he's committed to the long-term architecture where we do continue to drive great security capabilities in our standalone appliances where needed, but also making sure security is really a core part of the other large architectures that Cisco is bringing to market, whether that be data center, enterprise, service provider, collaboration, et cetera. And so I think that's our opportunity as well as our challenge. But I do believe that we can do both. We have to do both, and it's going to benefit our customers over the long term.